my audio. So if you are connecting remotely and something is horribly wrong, which happens fairly often because I'm an amateur, like you can't see anything or you can't hear anything, then contact me. You can send a chat through Zoom or you can send a tweet. I might see it here, or sometimes contacting a friend who came to class physically is the way to do it. Because one thing I don't have here is a monitor showing me what they see. Anyway, but all right. I think it's working, and I've got a couple of people here. Yeah, I see KT's been here before, so if anything terrible is wrong, let me know. But I think it's working now. So let me just explain this class, and there is the required first day handout. So, all right, the idea here is that first day you should find out what you're getting into so you know if you want to take this course. So this is ethical hacking and network defense. And let me turn down the sound. Oh, and I should mute the people. I've learned before that what they do is they irritate each other, right? Because if you have a recorded conference calls, if you have like 6 people on a call, somebody has their microphone on and their sound turned down, and they don't know that you can all hear their baby squalling or their dog barking or something. So I've learned to mute everybody. Anyway, so all right, you're going to learn how to attack systems. There's a textbook, Ethical Hacking and Network Defense. This textbook is pretty popular with the students. Most of them seem to appreciate the way it explains things. I'm not doing the projects in that book. It comes with a disc and projects, but as far as I'm concerned, you can ignore them. I've got my own projects on my website. By the way, there's a very expensive 3rd edition that was going for like $200 at least last semester, and there's an older 2nd edition that is much cheaper. And I am one of the technical editors responsible for moving from the 2nd edition to 3rd edition, and I can tell you with authority that it's not worth that money. Just use the older edition. If you want to save money, there's 1 chapter added and a few examples updated, and nothing remotely worth $200 about the new version, although maybe the price is starting to come down. Anyway, either one is fine. You should know the basics of networking and security before you get here, which is basic security terms. If you want, there's seats in the back and stuff. I wouldn't like walking at a funny angle like that, but it's up to you. Don't be, whatever suits you, the customer is always right. Anyway, but some people feel like I'm all tense and I get upset if you move around, and I'm not. Anyway, all right, so we're going to do a lot of labs. They're all on my website. You'll set up a couple of virtual machines and hack them. So you'll be doing things like taking over machines with buffer overflows and stealing data with SQL injection and performing web attacks like cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgery and all the other popular attacks, and turning on defenses to block them in many cases to see how it goes. And you'll find what I can tell you from almost any point of study these days is that there are tools out there that you can use to do pretty much everything. You will not have to do hardly any coding in this class. There's just a little bit of coding you do just to see the origin of these problems. But just like if you're a graphic designer, you don't write a program, you learn how to use Photoshop. If you're a penetration tester, you learn how to use Kali Linux. Because Kali Linux is the American standard for penetration testing, and it is a Linux distribution that contains all the tools you need for almost everything. So you just learn how to use it. And that is enough to get you to a mediocre level of penetration testing, which is as far as you're going to get in this class. So we'll talk about what ethical hacking is, learn how to do reconnaissance and attacks on networks, and take over wireless networks, web servers and such, and a little bit of cryptography. There's a whole class in cryptography you can take here that's not offered this semester, but that goes into more depth. And all right, there's quizzes. The quizzes are online, multiple choice, open book in the City College structure called InStructure. So if you take any of the other online classes, it's the same system. You have to be officially enrolled, you have to get a RAM ID, and then you can take quizzes there. There are people who are not officially enrolled who watch these classes online, and that's fine, but you won't get credit. And at least this semester, you can't get to the quizzes because the quizzes are in the City College system. You don't have to attend class physically at all. You can connect remotely. The classes are live streamed with Zoom, and then I put them on YouTube. And if somehow that should fail, which it does sometimes, if you go to the old classes link at the top of my page, you'll see the archived videos from last semester and the semester before. So you can see a video about the topic. It's also all in the book. So I just try to make it available so you can all learn it one way or another. All right, there's a bunch of stuff. I've got stuff due next week, which is kind of crazy, and that's why there's extra asterisks here. I don't really punish anybody until after the ad period is over. So but I recommend doing the quizzes starting next week because I learned from a student telling me this, it's better to make the students take a quiz before the lecture. So they actually have to study the book. So that's what I started doing, and it does work a lot better. You should also bring a cell phone or a computer to class. There are interactive Kahoot quizzes in class where you can get extra credit. And you can't do them if you don't have a computer or a cell phone or something that can open a web page. All right, if you came to ed, there's plenty of room for everybody, especially since after this week, half of the people will connect remotely. And I'll bring up ad codes when we take a break later and everybody can get them. I emailed everybody on the waiting list ad codes a few days ago, and a bunch of them could not add. And then I found out that the rule is you can't add until after the first class meeting. So people have been trying to add last week and not getting in and thinking something is wrong because I didn't understand the system. You can probably add today. All right, are there any questions about anything? Yeah?
That's a quiz chapter 2 next week, but the printed page says chapter 2 quiz the 3rd.
Oh, well, that's rude. Well, it should be before the, oh, that's right. Probably because I printed it up and then I changed my mind. I thought I couldn't possibly demand a quiz so early. And then I thought, yes, I can. I'll say you should do it here. But you don't really get punished until later, until like, so you aren't actually going to lose any points unless you're after February 3rd. So I realized you're right, thank you. So this deadline is not a real deadline in effect, it'll affect your grade. You really only have to do it by the 3rd. And by the way, if you're late on quizzes, you lose 2 points. If you're late on projects, you lose 5 points. If you're more than 2 weeks late on projects, they're no good at all. But extra credit projects are good till the end of class. And of course, if you're in a hospital or something, let me know. Good, thank you. Anything else? All right, but I put it there because that's when you really ought to do it so you're ready for the lecture. That would be best. But if you don't do it until the 3rd, it won't affect your grade any. All right, and I got a handout about grading, which is here, which is really very simple. I used to have a bunch of stuff here. All it is there, it's just based on points. Attendance does not affect your grade directly at all. You don't get points for being here. You don't lose points for not being here. All I care is that you learn the stuff. There's quizzes, which are online. There's projects, which are done by emailing things in, mostly. And then there's a final exam, which is also online, like the quizzes. And that's a pile of points, 90%'s an A, 80%'s a B, and so on. There's a bunch of extra credit projects, so if you do enough of them, you often don't have to take the final, and that is popular, as you might imagine. If people are cheating, I can kick them out of the course. If they're hacking other people and getting in legal trouble, I can kick them out of the course, and so I put a statement here in case of that. I haven't had that problem, but I have had criminals online get mad at me and threaten to send people to take my class and try to defame the college by hacking people. And so there are people who would like to do that. And I put this here so I have the chance to kick them out if that happens. And that's really it. Oh, I should have a warning about the lab upstairs. We have an on-campus hacking lab that you can do your homework in. Most people prefer to use their own computer at home or somewhere. But if you want to, you can work here. But of course, all the machines up there are publicly available to all the other students. So don't do any shopping on there or type in personal email passwords, credit card numbers, or anything. That lab is not safe in any way. The rest of the world is not safe either. But the difference about that lab is the college might possibly be blamed if you lose your stuff there, so we warn you. If you're using any kind of shared lab machine, it's entirely possible some other student could steal any data on it or indeed have planted keyloggers on it. We've had the advanced students do that as a prank, and we encourage that sort of thing. If you want to hack each other in the lab, that's perfectly fine. And if you want to hack me, that's perfectly fine. Here I have a disclosure policy. Anybody that wants to hack me is welcome to. If you obey the rules, I will not prosecute you. And the rules are try not to hurt anybody. Don't attack somebody else like City College server and say that this policy makes that okay, because they don't have a disclosure policy like this, although they should. But they have not yet listened to my recommendation in this regard. And if you do find something bad, tell me and give me a chance to fix it before you tell the whole world, and then I won't prosecute you. And a bunch of people have done this. If you succeed in hacking me, you get on the Hall of Fame. And here they are, quite a few people. Axiom, one of my most advanced students, managed to deface my home page, this server right here, which is intended to be secure, and I don't think anybody else has ever succeeded in hacking that page. I have several other servers you're going to use for projects, and those are deliberately out of date and insecure, and there are pretty clear ways to hack them. This one I thought was safe, and I was wrong. So he defaced my homepage. Charles McCarty got my password in a very good way here. He snuck up behind me in the lab and recorded me with his phone typing my password in. That's another kind of social engineering, very difficult to prevent. Very effective. I think Keith Kimber did it too. There's their notes of hacking me. A bunch of other people hacked me. Oscar Orzua, somebody from Palestine hacked me years and years ago. He managed to put Palestinian slogans on my page. And when he did, I left him up and put a link on Twitter and said, hey, this guy hacked me. That's pretty cool. And various people said, you're encouraging terrorism. I said, well, if he put up like kill somebody, I would have complained. But what he put was free Palestine. And I said, okay, he wants to free somebody. That's not a horrible thing to say. If he'd had some horrible, disgusting video, I would have took it down. But the fact is, I had a system up there where you could put links on my page without a password, and he found it. All right, anyway, so go for it. It's worth extra credit if you hack me. All right. So I think, let me just say a bit about Bitcoin. That's my plan for today. I'm going to give a bit about Bitcoin, and then we'll take a break, and then a little bit about our program, and I'll start you lockpicking. Just try to make things entertaining the first day. So I've got the Bitcoin stuff in 141, because Bitcoin's big in the news. And I have a few things to say about it. As you probably can tell, I've already started saying a few things about it, because I used to be a financial professional of sorts. That's the wrong one. That's the right one. I used to work for a contractor for the Federal Trade Commission, handling the investments and refunds from pyramid schemes. So, and that's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is a gigantic pyramid scheme. Almost everything to do with cryptocurrencies is. It demonstrates a variety of financial fraud techniques, and that's its primary value. Well, there may be some technical value. So most of this comes from this book, Digital Gold, that explains how cryptocurrencies work, and some of it from this very nice book, Attack of the 50-Foot Blockchain. I thought I hated Bitcoin more than anybody on earth, but this guy hates it even more, and he has even better scientific reasons why. So you know who I am. All right. So I have CryptoKitties, and there will be a contest. You can win CryptoKitties today, or you might be able to win them. These are the same CryptoKitties people won 2 months ago, or 1 month ago at a contest, but I tried to send it to them, and the Ethereum network completely failed and did not deliver them. So I'm selling the same CryptoKitties again to people to give you yet another object lesson in the joy of cryptocurrency. So a blockchain is the heart of cryptocurrency, and this is how they all work. So I actually have a video. I think the speaker on my machine might do for this. Let me find it. Let's see, I've probably got it on 141. And there we are. Okay, let's see. Yeah, all right.
When you vote, have you ever wondered whether your ballot is actually counted? If you meet someone online, how do you know they're who they say they are? When you buy coffee that's labeled fair trade, what makes you so certain of its origin? To be sure, really sure, about any of those questions, you'd need a system where records could be stored, facts could be verified by anyone, and security is guaranteed. That way, no one could cheat the system by editing records, because everyone using the system would be watching. Systems like this are on the horizon, and the software that powers them is called a blockchain. Blockchains store information across a network of personal computers, making them not just decentralized, but distributed. This means no central company or person owns the system, yet everyone can use it and help run it. This is important because it means it's difficult for any one person to take down the network or corrupt it. The people who run the system use their computer to hold bundles of records submitted by others, known as blocks, in a chronological chain. The blockchain uses a form of math called cryptography to ensure that records can't be counterfeited or changed by anyone else. You've probably heard of the blockchain's first killer app, a form of digital cash called Bitcoin that you can send to anyone, even a complete stranger. Bitcoin is different from credit cards, PayPal, or other ways to send money because there isn't a bank or financial middleman involved. Instead, people from all over the world help move the digital money by validating others' Bitcoin transactions with their personal computers, earning a small fee in the process. Bitcoin uses the blockchain by tracking records of ownership over this digital cash, so only one person can be the owner at a time, and the cash can't be spent twice, like counterfeit money in the physical world can. But Bitcoin is just the beginning for blockchains. In the future, blockchains that manage and verify online data could enable us to launch companies that are entirely run by algorithms, making self-driving cars safer, help us protect our online identities, and even track the billions of devices on the Internet of Things. These innovations will change our lives forever, and it's all just beginning. To learn more about the urgent future of the blockchain, please visit iftf.org.
Okay, that demonstrates two all-important things. The first thing is a very quick explanation of how the blockchain works, and the second is, to quote the latest Star Wars movie, every single word you heard was a lie. Everything. That was a sales pitch, and people become hypnotized and believe it. None of that is actually true of what's really out there. However, there is just a little bit of truth in the general ideas, but in practice, none of it works that way. And you might have begun to get suspicious when you see the first thing a Bitcoin will do is let you know when the person talking to you is really a criminal. And the next thing, 1 minute later, Bitcoin will protect your privacy on the internet. And then Bitcoin is going to drive your car. I'd sure like to see that. I went to a conference on campus about a year ago of New Society through Cryptocurrencies Club. And there were a bunch of them there. And I went in there, this guy said, "You should invest in my company. We're launching a new coin. We bought a bunch of land in the middle of a war-torn country in Africa, and all the large companies are going to move there to escape taxes." And I'm like, dude, is there an airport? Is there a road? Oh, well, we haven't really quite got the land yet, but we'll solve all that, and we're going to get rich. Give me your money. And I'm like, dude, are you out of your mind? He's, "No, we're saving the world here. What are you, stupid?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so. That must be it." Anyway, so let's look. Blockchains are real, and they're a form of data, and they might actually have some use. Although I must say, although Bitcoin has been around for almost 10 years, no actual application has yet been demonstrated for this technology. But people are promoting it, and you can certainly get a job programming it, although I think the end result of your job programming it will be to finally convince your company that it does not have any actual value. But anyway, let's take a look at it. This is blockchain 10. Okay, this is a very nice demonstration live online of a simplified blockchain to show you how the Bitcoin blockchain works. So here's how it works. You have a block of data, and this is block number 1, and you have some data you can put in here. So I'll say Sam has 10 coins. So you put in information about the coins. There are no actual physical coins, and there's no record anywhere of how many coins anybody has. They only record transactions. So somebody gives you coins, you give some to someone else, somebody gives you more, so you have to add up the transactions to find out what you have. That's all it is. So here's a hash value. Now, a hash value is just a mathematical summary of all the data here. And let me shrink it down so it fits on the screen. All right, so the hash value is calculated from all this data. Now, this nonce is a number you can change as much as you want. And now we're going to mine this coin. When you mine a coin, you change that nonce randomly over and over and over until you get lucky and find the right hash. And just to make it difficult, the rule is the hash has to start with a bunch of zeros. This one is set where it has to start with 4 zeros. The Bitcoin blockchain currently has to start with 61 zeros. So the mining process is so difficult that the fastest computers on Earth take 10 minutes to mine a block. And that is what makes it secure, because nobody can forge a block unless they have a computer faster than the fastest miner. Because the first person to mine a block wins and all the rest lose. And they win a prize of 12.5 Bitcoins, which is a pretty good chunk of change these days, something like $100,000. So they spend a lot of money making really fast miners. This is, of course, a demonstration with only 4. So I mined that block. Okay, now let's look at a blockchain. This is the Merkle tree. So I have a block here and a block here and a block here. And if I put Sam has 10 coins in here and then mine that one. Now that when I do that, this no longer adds up to the right hash. So this is invalid and it turns pink. And all the later ones turn pink too, because when I mine this one, it's going to change this nonce over and over until it finds one that gives me a hash starting with 4 zeros. And it's, of course, chosen so that your browser can do it in maybe 10 or 20 seconds. Okay, so now this one is mined and it turns green. Now notice this hash, 00F96, goes here. The hash of the previous block is included in the next block. That's what makes it a blockchain. And the generalized data structure here is called a Merkle tree. So now if Sam gives Joe 5 coins, and if Joe mines this, Joe's going to get another, gets 10 coins. Because every time you mine, you're going to get a reward. So when Joe wants to mine a block, he'll put in, Joe gets a reward in his block. Sam will put, Sam gets a reward in his block, and everybody else will. And whoever wins the race, their block will join the chain, and it's the one that gives them some money. That's how it works. So he'll mine this thing. And when he mines it, this now is mined, and that's mined, and now we can go on to this one. And the point is, if anybody changes anything, if Joe decides he wants to have 100 coins, that block becomes invalid. And if Sam tries to go back and change this one, they all become invalid. So the whole point of it is this thing can be really long. And right now the Bitcoin blockchain is up to 80 gigabytes because it's been doing a new block every 10 minutes for 10 years. And all you have to do is take the latest block, add it up and see if the hash matches, which is very easy. And that proves that the entire chain is intact. That's the point of it. It is a data structure that can hold a very large amount of data and be very easy to verify. And that's the point of it. Like I say, people can't really cheat on the blockchain, although they can in some ways, but they certainly can't go change historical data and make the current blocks add up very easily. They have to do it differently. Anyway, so that's what's good about and that's the blockchain, which is an interesting data structure and may actually have some practical purposes, although the jury's still out on that. So Bitcoin is incredibly dangerous in reality because almost everybody involved is just a total crook and they steal your money. If you want an honest business to get into, try selling heroin. I think you'll find the people far more trustworthy. So when I started, this became big in 2015. I said, you know, if you want to teach your children, websites coming out, how to teach your kids about Bitcoin. So this was my contribution. Teach your kids about Bitcoin, give them a piggy bank, let them fill it up, then smash it and steal the money and laugh. Now they understand Bitcoin. And that is the typical experience. A lot of people now imagine, boy, I feel dumb. If I'd only bought a bunch of Bitcoin a few years ago, I'd be rich now. That is not true. If you'd bought a Bitcoin a few years ago, you would have had your money stolen at Mt. Gox. This is high-risk investments. When I was a kid, a young adult beginning to be foolable by these things, the high-risk investment at that time was oil futures. You would buy oil rights over some hunk of sand somewhere, and some of it would end up having oil on it, and those guys would get rich. You might as well start a band with your buddies in your garage and expect to be the next big hit rock band, or go dig for gold in the mountains. This is get-rich-quick scheme is a perennial one. Anyway, so Bitcoin was developed in 2008 and had no value at all for many years. It was developed by people who were sort of political anarchists and sort of cryptographers that were objecting to the economic theory of how modern money works. And there's a lot to object to there. They've got a point. The way money works is kind of nuts these days. And they said, we can make a better form of money with mathematics and computers. And that's what they tried to do. And the goal of it was to make money that no government could manipulate and that no one could control. And that's the origin of that thing I was mocking earlier where they say no government can outlaw cryptocurrencies. And they were trying to make something no one could control that would be trustworthy, that would be a store of value like gold and retain value regardless of whether the governments rise and fall and devalue their currencies and cheat each other and stuff. And it failed in all those regards. But anyway, the original miners mined a large amount of it. It was mined by a guy who went by the fake name Satoshi Nakamoto. He mined enough Bitcoin to be worth something like $1 billion right now. And then as soon as it started, he vanished and never reappeared ever again, which gives you a clue about how much the inventor believed in his own product. And this is one of the many things that puzzles people. People have been hunting for 10 years to find this guy because now he would be a billionaire. He's never cashed out. Those coins are just sitting in the chain. People don't know if the developer died or just got bored and went on to the next project and has such contempt for it that he can't even be bothered to cash out his $1 billion. But they sit there, never touched by anybody. So it was of no value at all until a use of Bitcoin appeared. And this started around 2009, 2010. Silk Road was the first killer app. A guy made an online marketplace where you could buy illegal things like guns and drugs and prostitutes and murder for hire. and sold them there. And you had to pay in Bitcoin because the idea was Bitcoin was anonymous, which, by the way, is a very strange thing because they just told us that every single user has the entire transaction record right back to the chart called the blockchain. So that would seem to be the opposite of anonymity. Everybody has the entire ledger. And by the way, that is probably the main reason why banks are not having any plan to replace their normal banking systems with Bitcoin, because it would violate privacy laws in every country on earth. Every time you buy something, it would go in the blockchain, which would then become public. That's crazy. However, you can make a different account number for each transaction, and that's one way you can obscure your identity. But when you get the money in an account, they can watch and see where it goes. And anyway, so it's a very strange thing that people regard it as anonymous, but it is more anonymous than using a credit card. So people use it to buy illegal things. People that want ransomware, they encrypt your files and demand money to give them back. They want you to pay in Bitcoins. And it turns out there are some countries whose real currency is so fouled up that Bitcoin is better, like Argentina. Your real currency has some horrible inflation, so you get paid. Even if you dig a hole and hide your money in the hole, it's still no good after a month or two. You'd be better off to put it in Bitcoin. And so this is the big killer app of Bitcoin, which is called money laundering, where you break whatever your local laws about currency are to put it in some currency that's beyond your local government's control. And that means you can do something that your government doesn't like. And you may notice that is what all these are. All these are otherwise known as crime. You are breaking some law about currency by moving your currency into some goofy kind of currency that is hard for the government to regulate, and that's the point. Anyway, so, however, this year we had a new effect in Bitcoin, which is the Bitcoin went up just because Bitcoin is going up, based on absolutely nothing. This is what happens when you have speculation. So here's a history of the crime. The Mt. Gox was the #1 Bitcoin exchange, and they either lost or stole all the money. 7% of all the Bitcoins in the world were stolen in that event. Here's the $460 million disaster at that time, and the guy that did it. By the way, Mt. Gox was not anything to do with Bitcoin. It stands for Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. He bought the domain name because he played Magic the Gathering and wanted to sell the cards, and that business failed. So when he started selling Bitcoin, he didn't even get a new domain name. He just reused the old one. So many clues here that you are not dealing with professionals handling your money. It's like you go to a bank and it's some kid on the corner with a shoebox. Put your money in the box. Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll see you sometime. Bye. Anyway, this was almost 1% stolen in Hong Kong. Bitfinex getting hacked for 65 million, 5 million at Bitstamp. Bitcoin hacked here. A pyramid scheme shut down. Another heist. Cryptsy hacked. This one hacked. That one hacked. The Danish one went down. The Chinese one went down. Here's all the heists before 2014. These are where people were buying their coins, and they're all just getting stolen or lost or just destroyed. That's a good, clean, fun one here. Then finally, they busted Silk Road. So the US government impounded the Bitcoins, and the FBI agents and Secret Service agents started stealing the Bitcoins for themselves, until 2 of them got long prison terms for stealing the Bitcoins. Here's the Bitcoin price history up until about the end of last year. It was worth nothing at all from 2008 up until around 2013. This is when Silk Road came out, and it went up to about 300, which was people were really buying stuff on Silk Road, and there was actually some value to Bitcoin. Then it went up and down, and then 2017 happened where something very crazy happened. And I think here's the history from the start of 2017 to now. At the beginning of 2017, Bitcoin was a few $100, like $500. Then somehow, by the end of the year, and mostly in the last 1 month, it was worth $20,000. So the question is, what does Bitcoin do that became 20 times more valuable last year? And the answer is nothing. There is no basis for this at all. This is exactly what's called a bubble. When you have something that has some value, and it suddenly is trading for a ridiculous price higher than that value because everybody's just jumping on it. It just became fashionable to throw your money into Bitcoin like an idiot, and based on nothing. And this is a well-known financial phenomenon. It happens fairly often. Here is the tech bubble. The tech bubble in 1999, you could just put .com at the end of your company name, and everybody would give you money whether it made any sense or not. So that was the tech boom. But this is the number of days since the start of the boom. The tech boom was actually quite slow. and small compared to the Bitcoin bubble. The Bitcoin bubble is the largest act of complete stupidity by the human race in 400 years, which gives me some hope because I'm hoping it kind of explains the last election too. People have not been this stupid since the 1600s. In the 1600s, the same thing happened. In Holland, somebody brought in a ship with tulip bulbs, and nobody had ever seen tulips. So they said, gee, these are pretty, let's buy some tulip bulbs. And then people said, well, I'll bid more for them. So price started going up. And that made sense for a while. But after a while, the tulip bulb got to where the tulip bulb was trading for the price of a mansion, whatever, multi-millions of dollars and whatever the currency was at the time. It went up as fast as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the blue, and the tulip mania was the red. And what happens is the actual value of it is down here somewhere. People are paying 100 times what it's worth and jumping on because they hope it'll keep going up. They all lie to their friends and say it'll keep going up forever because that's the only way they'll make the money. And sooner or later, somebody decides this is bullshit. Down it comes, never to come up again. And that's the way it is. So this I thought was a useful quote. This is the part of life you call being stupid. Paying $10,000 for a Bitcoin. Why are you doing that? Why are you paying $1 million for a tulip bulb? Anybody could tell you you're out of your mind. There's no way it can be worth that much, and it isn't. So Bitcoin is of no actual financial value. It is not going to disrupt banking by any means. It is fundamentally insane. You may notice I told you I tried to do 3 transactions a month ago on the Ethereum network, and 0 of them went through because the network was completely flooded by a game called CryptoKitties. So the network is so fragile, it cannot handle financial transactions in enough volume to actually have any effect on the world. And here's how it is. The maximum number of transactions capable in Bitcoin is 3 to 4 transactions per second. Ethereum can do 20, PayPal can do 193, Visa is doing 2,000 transactions per second. So the real financial professionals of the world have just been laughing at this. Say, you people say you're disrupting the world. I say you're just a bunch of idiots playing some stupid little video game, and we're doing real business over here. And whenever you kids grow up and decide to do something, mean something, then get a job over here. But you're fooling yourself with this. And anyway, it's not a means of exchange. The value of Bitcoin is now $10,000 per transaction, whereas the value of Visa is valued at $6 per transaction. You may remember that video said that you could escape the high transaction fees of credit cards by using Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin transaction fees are now $50 per transaction, whereas Visa remains about 2%. There is absolutely no reason for a normal person to use Bitcoin to pay for anything. Visa and MasterCard and your checks will work just fine and be much cheaper, much more reliable, and you can get refunds if it's stolen, and the government insures your money in case the bank crashes, and you get none of that with Bitcoin. It's not a store of value. Bitcoin crashes every quarter by a lot, like 50%. The whole reason you invest to store value isn't something like gold. Gold is the classic store of value. And the point of gold is it does not fluctuate very much. It rises a little bit of up and down, but it doesn't crash by 50%. That's why when you're afraid that the government is terrible and the financial systems are corrupt, you buy gold, because gold will retain some value. This is emphatically not true of Bitcoin. Anyway, now everybody is making their own initial coin offerings. Almost all of them are complete scams. They're used only by investors that are hoping other people are stupider and they can steal their money. Not that anyone's actually going to use it for any purpose. So here's the video to explain it. You've seen this one. Riley Kiter runs off a cliff. He doesn't fall until he looks down. And that's where all the Bitcoin investors have been since December. Bitcoin is not decentralized. It is completely controlled by China. This is because of a mathematical error in the design of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was designed to focus on hashing power, and that means the only thing that makes you the fastest miner is your CPU speed. So you have to have the fastest computer in the world by CPU speed. And that means you have to have ASICs, you have to have giant server farms full of multiple specialized integrated circuits. And it turns out that the rate limiting factor is the price of electricity. And in China, there have until recently been deals you can make through government corruption to get free electricity from power plants by locating your farms in certain places in China. So nobody outside China can possibly compete with the Bitcoin miners in China. They win the race every time. So it is not out of government control. It is completely controlled by the government of China, or it could be. It's completely controlled by the miners in China, But the government is sort of confused and baffled and can't quite decide what to do about it. But the main reason Bitcoin fluctuates up and down such large amounts is because the government of China issues statements like, we're going to ban Bitcoin, Bitcoin falls. We're going to approve Bitcoin, the Bitcoin rises. And that would change everything. So they totally failed in making a distributed system controlled by many different governments, and instead made a system controlled by China. This is one that got a lot of attention about a month ago. Bitcoin, because the price went up so fast, the actual amount of power being consumed by Bitcoin went up really fast. It went up so fast that it exceeded the entire power consumption of Ireland. Now, another consequence of the design of Bitcoin is you are wasting an incredible amount of electricity trying to mine by doing all those hashes. So, and you're trying to make the biggest and fastest clusters in the world hashing, so a large amount of the power in the world goes into Bitcoin mining. And if it continues to grow at the current rate, then you'll need all the power on Earth in the year 2023. And people say it's going to destroy the world, kill us all, and everything else. This is a fundamental factor. You can't just draw a straight line here and expect it to keep growing like that. This is the kind of stuff that led to the internet bubble. People said the internet was nothing in 1993, and in 1999 it's a lot, so we're all going to get rich. Just draw a straight line. Well, what this tells you when you hit a ridiculous conclusion is it's not going to keep following that straight line. Yeah.
Well, that seems that the world electricity generation is going to remain the same.
No, this is the expected growth rate of it. It is growing a little. You see, it's going up. I got those real numbers. But I put this up on Twitter, and people said, "Oh my God, I'm afraid it's going to end the world." And I'm like, I was sort of hoping you might get the point that this projection is not right. So I made another one here. I said, well, let's take it out a little further to 2100. By the year 2060, the entire sun is consumed by Bitcoin miners. And by the year 2100, the entire universe's mass energy is consumed by Bitcoin miners. So perhaps at this point, someone will realize the problem here. This is stupid to take this much data and extrapolate out to here with a straight line. Anyway, but that's the game. So anyway, let me see where we are. We're at 10:47. I think I don't want to continue with this because we got a couple other things to talk about. I think what I'm going to do, how many people need ad codes? Okay, quite a few. I'll just handle them at the break. Let me just start you guys picking locks. How many people know how to pick locks? That's what I was hoping. Because I think Alan's starting to teach locks and other people learn in hackerspaces. I want you to show other people how to pick locks. This is a simple form of security testing. It's now at every hacker conference. These things we use in America to lock doors are complete garbage, and Americans are the only company stupid enough to use them. You cannot sell these locks in Germany because these locks were developed in 1850 and never improved. It's true of all the locks at the college and the lock on your front door and everywhere else. So if you have never picked a lock, it's just because you never tried, because it's very, very easy. So I've got a bunch of picks and I've got a bunch of locks, and I'm doing it the way I learned to do it at a hacker conference. There are locks that I've had some of the teeth removed to make them easier to pick. So this is an extra credit project. We use Exceed. All right, I'm trying to think of my best logistic move here. All right, I have an irritating survey I'd like you to fill out, which brings money into the department. And I'd like you to at least put your name on this, although if you're willing to put down your W number and some information about how much money you make, it would benefit the department because a program will give us money. This will work with a pen or a pencil, and I've got some pencils here, so pass those around. I'm going to treat this as an intended sheet. And it's also going to be how you get your points for your lock-in. So that's my pen. And so at least put your name on it. Yeah, you already did it in another class? Yeah, so just put your name on it. Yeah. Can I talk about the Hackers Club before we Yeah, sure. Tell them about that.
All right. Well, how's it going? My name is Stuart, and I'm the president of the Hackers Club here at CCSF. We're going to meet on Saturdays for probably the rest of the semester. We have a meeting today at 12, which is up 2 floors in S214. So it's on the second floor at this point. Basically, what we did last semester, really the last 2 semesters, is we basically just practiced hacking servers, like particular servers called Bowne Hub, VM, some of you guys might be familiar or whatever. To basically get everyone's skills up for these cyber competitions that we've been doing. But like in addition to that, another thing that we do is like we go and we'll help you with your homework or like whatever. If you guys have any problems, we have a Slack that we use to communicate where you can share like interesting news articles or stuff like that. Sometimes we get to, a couple times we've like gone and played pool or gone on road trips. We went to Las Vegas last year, which was fun. So, you know, at a community college, you don't, it's not like building your dorms, we're all not there, we all, you know, play work and whatever. And this is the one way you actually get that community aspect of community college. So I'm gonna pass around a piece of paper. If you're interested in participating or you just want to hang out in the Slack, put your CCSF email on it and your name. And please write your email in all caps so that I can read it handwriting. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, I'm happy to do.
So do you have meetings every day, every Saturday at 12:30?
At 12. So basically, we're having a meeting today at 12 so that we can figure out the meeting times for probably the next 2 months. But we're definitely going to be meeting on Saturdays at some point. It'll either be at 12, like usually, or at like 3. So.
And 12 is not bad because I'm not going to lecture for 3 hours. Nobody would put up with that. The lecture will be over after like an hour and a half, and then we go up to the lab and work, and you can be going to a club or something then.
Yeah.
So this thing I want to show you is this lockpicking project is here. 123 is the page. Here's the projects, and this is an extra credit project, X18. I'll just tell you how it works. There are 5 house locks. There are some other locks up in the lab that are worth more points, but I've color-coded these locks. So the white locks have only 1 pin, the green locks have 2 pins, and then it goes yellow, red, and black. The black lock is the lock like on your front door, an unmodified lock, the cheapest lock I could get at Home Depot. People who know how to pick locks, please come on up here. I want you to train the others. Like I say, I had like 4 or 5 of them, which is good. So start them on.